Tonight, you will probably split a bill with a friend. You will open an app. You will type in a number, hit send, and feel nothing at all. It is instant. It is invisible. It feels like the most natural thing in the world. But the real answer of how humans settle debts is far stranger than a screen full of numbers. For most of human history, there was no app. There was no coin. There was, for a very long time, no money at all. And yet people still ate, still built homes, still raised children together in villages where nobody was starving and nobody was rich. How did that work? You have probably heard the story before. Ancient humans, the textbooks say, had a problem. You had chickens. Your neighbor had shoes. So you traded chickens for shoes, directly face to face. Economists call this barter. It sounds simple. It sounds obvious. It is also, according to decades of anthropological fieldwork, almost entirely made up. The Cambridge anthropologist Caroline Humphrey spent years studying trade among real, living communities that still practice traditional exchange. Her conclusion was blunt. No example of a pure barter economy has ever been described, let alone the emergence from it of money. Not one. Not anywhere. Not in any society researchers have ever documented, past or present. So where did this story come from? Mostly from economists imagining what life must have been like, rather than from anyone actually digging through the dirt to find out. And when people did dig, they found something else entirely. In the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia, archaeologist Denise Schmandt-Besserat noticed something strange buried in the clay. Thousands of small tokens, cones, spheres, little discs, each shaped to represent a specific good. A cone for a measure of grain, a sphere for a jar of oil. These tokens were not coins. They were not traded hand to hand for goods on the spot. They were something closer to receipts, a record, a promise. Picture a farmer handing over grain to a temple storehouse before the harvest even begins. The temple did not pay in coins. It kept a tally. This much grain, owed to this much labor, owed to this much oil. All written down, all remembered, all trusted to be settled later. This is not barter. This is credit. This is debt. Before there was money, there was memory. Before there were coins, there was trust that could stretch across a season, a harvest, sometimes a lifetime. The anthropologist David Graeber spent years tracing this idea across thousands of years of human record keeping. His research kept turning up the same pattern in society after society. Debt came first. Money came later, as a way to measure debt more easily, not to replace some earlier system of direct swapping. Graeber described early economies as running on obligation. You owed your neighbor owed the miller owed the shepherd. Nobody settled every debt immediately, because nobody needed to. The community itself was the ledger. Think about what that means for a moment. Your ancestors were not walking around clutching baskets of eggs, desperately searching for someone who happened to want eggs and happened to have exactly what they needed in return. That double coincidence of wants, as economists call it, would have made daily life almost impossible. Instead, people extended trust. They gave now and expected to receive later, sometimes from the very same person, often from someone else entirely, someone connected through the same web of favors and debts that held the whole village together. Why does this matter to you right now in a world full of banks and salaries and interest rates? Because it means something uncomfortable. Debt is not a modern invention layered on top of some purer, simpler barter economy. Debt is older than money itself. It might be older than the marketplace. It might be one of the oldest tools your species ever built for living together at all. Here is the twist that should genuinely unsettle you. Money did not free humans from debt. Money was invented, in part, to make debt easier to measure, easier to transfer, easier to enforce between strangers who did not trust each other the way neighbors did. Coins let debts travel outside the village, outside the family, outside the web of reputation that used to hold everyone accountable. A coin does not remember who you are. A coin does not care if you are kind or reliable or loved by your community. It only cares about its stamped weight in silver or gold. So in a strange way, the invention of money was not the beginning of trust. It was a replacement for it. When strangers could no longer track each other's reputations, something colder and more portable had to take reputation's place. Does that sound familiar? Think about your credit score. A single number following you everywhere, standing in for a lifetime of decisions no single stranger could ever verify firsthand. It is not so different from a clay token buried in Mesopotamian soil. It is just a promise, translated into a format a machine can read. Now think about the last time you lent a friend $20 and told them not to worry about it. No app, no number, just trust, and a quiet expectation that it would come back around eventually, in some form, at some point. That small moment is not a modern shortcut. It is one of the oldest human behaviors on record. You were not skipping the system, you were using the original one. Consider, too, why splitting a dinner bill down to the cent can feel oddly tense between close friends, while owing your mother 20 years of unpaid favors feels completely normal. Debt among people who trust each other does not need to be resolved quickly or ever fully resolved at all. It is precisely engineered to keep people connected. The moment a debt is perfectly settled, in some ways, the relationship built on top of it goes quiet. This reframes something else, too. For centuries, people have worried that going into debt is shameful, a sign of failure, something to escape as fast as possible. But debt was never designed to be a wound. It was designed to be a bond. Somewhere between clay tokens in a Mesopotamian temple and the interest on a car loan today, the meaning shifted. Debt used to say, "We are connected, and I trust you to come through." Now it often says something closer to, "You failed to have enough money in the first place." That shift did not happen by accident. As economies scaled up, as strangers began trading with strangers across greater distances, the personal trust that once secured a debt had to be replaced with something enforceable. Contracts, interest, collections. The warmth of the original system cooled into a machine. But the underlying wiring in your brain never fully caught up to that machine. Neuroscience on reciprocity suggests that humans still process owing and being owed through the same emotional circuitry your ancestors used around the fire, tracking who helped whom, who could be relied upon, who still needed to make things right. Your body still treats debt as a relationship. Your bank treats it as a transaction. That mismatch is where a lot of modern financial stress quietly lives. Maybe that is why a request for money from a close friend feels so different from a bill from a company. One activates the ancient circuitry of mutual obligation. The other activates something closer to fear, because a corporation has no memory of your character, only your account number. Here is the strangest part. If Humphrey, Schmandt-Besserat, and Graeber are right, then the barter economy you were taught about in school may never have existed as the origin of money at all. It might be closer to a myth economists told themselves to make a complicated, deeply human system of trust and memory sound like simple, cold mathematics. Numbers are easier to model than relationships. So the story got flattened until debt itself became something to fear rather than something to honor. Which brings you back to tonight, back to the dinner bill, the app, the instant transfer. What if that small glowing number on your screen is not a symbol of how far you have come from your ancestors, but proof of how little has actually changed? The tool is new. The instinct underneath it is not. You are still doing what humans have always done. You are still turning trust into something you can count. Tonight, when you split that bill, you will open an app. You will type in a number, hit send, and feel nothing at all. But somewhere underneath that number, quiet and ancient, is the same handshake your ancestors made around a fire, thousands of years before anyone ever needed a coin to prove it.